Welcome everyone, it's the Crypto Lark. Very excited to welcome back on the channel today Craig Cobb of TraderCobb.com. Craig, how's it going?
Mate, I'm well. Thanks for having me, and g'day everyone out there.
Now today we're going to be talking about the markets, looking at what you're looking for in the markets currently and what's going on with the altcoin markets and all this fun kind of stuff. But before we do jump into all that, I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with your live shows that are
Oh
coming up. Can
yeah,
you tell us a bit about that?
yeah, dude. It's really excited actually. We've had a lot of success with the online course versions that we've done, and we've had over the 18 months or so we've been in business. We've had so many people saying, when are you going to do a live course? When can we come into a classroom, sit down, meet like-minded people in our city, make groups, ask your questions in person, meet the apprentices? And I was like, all right, we've got to do that. And it was always in the plan for 2019 to do that. We're just waiting for the opportune moment. And of course, that sort of kicked off in April. It was in April at which, when the market broke up, I was very confident that we would see the market continue to push on. Thankfully, I was right because we decided we were going to work on it. So we're going to Sydney in a couple of weeks, then Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Tasmania, and then over to Auckland as well. And from there, in 2020, we'll probably be heading over to London, maybe LA and New York, and also anywhere else where people register on the website. You don't have to pay anything. You just register, put in the city you're from. That's what we'll choose where we're going to go next. I'm really looking forward to it. Really excited to get to meet all the people out there and just get up on stage again, stretch the legs out, and give the vocal cords a bit of a sing.
Well, it's awesome, to be honest, because live events, it's totally different. And for anyone who hasn't been to like a cryptocurrency conference or haven't even been to a local meetup in your town, like you got to get out there, you got to meet these like-minded people. Like it's such a weird situation when you're here, you're enthusiastic about cryptocurrencies, but you may not know anyone around you who is. So it's a great way to not only meet people, of course, to get knowledge by coming to the course. So anyway, if anybody wants more information on that, there's a link down below you guys can check out. But let's get into the juice of today's conversation. So the cryptocurrency markets right now, what is it that you're looking for as a trader in the current market?
Continuation. I just want to see the market continue to move. We have had recently the daily, I'll just talk to the chart. The daily actually broke up through a point. Now, the level for which I know this might not go out exactly around the time, but there was a level for which I was looking at, which had a high of 12,059. Now we broke up through that, which set a higher low and a higher high on Bitcoin. And of course, we know that Bitcoin's the big daddy at the moment, 63.4% dominance, which I think is the highest of the year so far, which was this morning. So we are seeing that dominance coming back. We saw Bitcoin have a good 7%? Yeah, 7% close yesterday, and grinding away at the moment. So I wanted to see this continuation. I do think that by the look of it at the moment, and look, I've been wrong before, and we'll certainly be wrong again. I do think that at the moment it does look overwhelmingly more positive. So what I've been doing is I've been moving down into the much lower time frame. So contracts like on BitMEX Ethereum against the dollar and the XBT, which is, of course, the Bitcoin paired with the dollar. They've been my major focus of late because they've got fantastic volume. And look, both of them are working really, really well to the upside. Ethereum has rejected 280 about 6 different times now on resistance. Now it became support, and it's moving away from there. I think that could potentially be a really defining price level and a point for which I think many people eventually will be saying, God, I wish I had have bought it then. So I've been rebalancing my portfolio as I've had some very good trades over the last month or so in that big run up. I had a couple of positions there. And what I tend to do is I'll take my Bitcoin that I profit from, and then I'll sort of scatter it back across. So if my Bitcoin holding in my portfolio goes well above the other alts that I like to invest into, then I'll rejiggle that portfolio after a certain few weeks. If I've got another 5 or 6 Bitcoin or something, I will move that into the tokens that I hold in the investment portfolio. So it's been a bit of trading. It's been a bit of writing new sections for the course as well. And it's been a bit of rejigging the portfolio.
Now, you mentioned the word wrong, and I actually want to get back to that for a second because I feel like for people who might look in on trading from the outside and you're going to get it right all the time and stuff like that, and it's just not like that. It's about risk management and a lot of that stuff. But can you tell me, what have you got wrong in the market recently?
Well, when I'm trading, in all honesty, I'm going to touch wood here on my forehead. I haven't had many losing trades for quite a while now, so I just got to keep focused, right? The last time I was completely wrong was when we were pushing up. around that 8,800 mark, and I saw it pull back, went below 8,000. We had a slightly lower high on the daily. Then what we saw was it come back up into 8,000, small bearish candle, tested that level, rejected, and sold off. And at that point, I started looking at my pullbacks, and the average pullback in 2017's bull run was 38.25%. From there, the upside from the low of that 35.25% was 207.75%. That was the average move to the upside. So I love pullbacks, because obviously a pullback's when the market sort of, it's in between. If you're a swimmer and you're going to do the 50-meter butterfly, then you're going to go on to the 100-meter freestyle, you want to have a rest in the middle. That's what that pullback is. It's that rest. It's that, okay, we get up on the medal podium, hopefully, put that around our neck, we get ourselves ready for the next race. That's what I see the market is needing to do. It needs to breathe. You can exhale and you have to inhale as well. Now, the market pulled back 29% or so from its high to its low. Now, it rejected 10,000 and it's looked a lot more bullish since then. I'm still very open to a deeper pullback, because on the weekly time frame, we have not pulled back into the 20-period moving average or into that cradle zone significantly yet. And we have had I think it's 326% from the lows of Bitcoin's most recent bear market to the highs now. So it's been a very big move with very little rest, but it doesn't look at the moment like we are seeing the catalyst for that decent pullback. But again, this is Bitcoin. Anything can happen.
It really can. Now, maybe this is going to be the answer to my next question here, but what has really been surprising you about this market? I mean, I feel like we've had so much exuberance and so much upward movement without any really massive pullback movements. I mean, yeah, we did go from 13,800 to just down below 10,000. So that was a pretty decent pullback that happened the other day, but it bounced back so quickly. I mean, we were only down there for an hour or something below the 10,000 mark, and around this sort of 10 to 11,000 mark, we were only there for a couple of days before bouncing back up to where we are now. So what has been the biggest surprise for you in the current market?
Yeah, just to fill in some information on that as well, like the from that quick day, we went straight down, then we rejected and came back up again. That was when we went to 9,800 and something, right? We tapped 10,000. We retreated very quickly. In those 2 days from that low to the next candle, 2 days we regained 25% on Bitcoin. So what's surprising me? Well, nothing in this market. Okay, nothing in this market, because you can't be in the position to trade this market successfully long term if you get surprised all the time, because surprises. Look, this market is full of them. I was surprised to see us head towards 14,000. I thought 12.6 was about the point we might see a pullback. We moved another $1,400 or so from there before we did see that pullback. So what I am really enjoying is seeing the CME's futures contract increase in volume consistently. Now, just to give a bit of insight as to why that's of interest to me, everyone was, put so much hope and faith and dreams on the ETF, which for me, I was looking forward to people, forgetting about the ETF, because the ETF, I think it was just that it was something of a financially regulated instrument, and everyone was kind of pretty stoked to have something like that in the space. But it's derivatives that make the markets, right? If you can trade, if you can go long and short on a derivative, then institutional money comes in because they can hedge. Now, you can have 100 ETFs, but if you can't go short with a reputable firm with volume like the CME group, then you can't hedge your risk. In the most volatile market in the world, there's no bloody way in the world institutions are going to go on, even if you drop 10, 50 million, it's a big number for an individual, but not for these funds. It's very small. That's a speculative sum to play with. So the derivative products have come in. The CME group's volume increasing has been a direct reflection of how much institutional volume has come into the space, and it continues to grow, which is fantastic, because I'm not trading on the CME. You'll find that not many retail traders are trading on the CME. Who is trading there? It's the institution. So as we see the CME contract increase in volume, we will also likely see a lot more movement in Bitcoin and a lot more involvement from those institutions. So it's not surprising. It's good to see.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point that if you're overly surprised in Bitcoin, well, you should probably just be not surprised, because that's what Bitcoin will do. It will surprise you nonstop. Yep. Now, you actually made a really interesting point about the CME too, and I want to follow up on this with you. So obviously the CME futures have been absolutely massive, but now we have Ledger X and Eris X, who have both been approved, and Backed is likely to be approved, I think, in the near future, because those other two have been approved and they're very similar offerings. Yeah. Do you think that when we do see these multiple futures contracts available for institutional clients, is that going to make the pie bigger, or is that just going to take away from the CME's pie?
I think it'll depend on what requirements they've got. So the CME, typically the way a futures exchange will work, and this is based on my past experience trading futures, something like ICE, right? Who's backed? Yeah, ICE owns backed. You'd have to pay a fee to get the TF, which is the Russell Mini contract, or the YM or the ES, or the contracts that they hold. Now you also have to trade through certain platforms, a certain volume, to be allowed to be accessing these accounts. So it just depends on who's doing what. I would imagine that the CME and backed, they'll probably be focused more on the institutional side of things. What they can also then do with these other options that are coming in, and when I say other options, I don't mean financial instrument options, I just mean trading options, is you can basically get it so that what they might do is service a lot of the retail brokers. So not exchanges, I'm talking about brokers. So let's say Oanda, for example, which is a big foreign exchange and commodity broker, retail centric. They're very focused on retail, very big platform. Now they go ahead and they start to increase their exposure to, it'll be Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Litecoin, all these, start off with those futures contracts. They'll be offering it to the retail client through these different offerings, if that makes sense. So I think it's definitely a positive. It just depends on what the limitations or what the offerer or the issuer of that futures contract is going to put in place as to who's actually going to use it. It's an area in the market that I'm very interested in, because you can really read. I've been in financial markets for 13 years trading. You can read between the lines. That's why it's very clear for me. CME's volumes increasing, institutions are arriving. It's just that simple. Depending on knowing who's got what hoops to jump through, will also give you a good segmentation of what market is also outperforming the other market. Is it your traditional investor that's coming in? You're between 40 to 65, which I think that's going to be a really big retail market for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency next. Who's giving them the channel, and what do their volumes look like? So you can see who's outpacing each other to get a really good understanding for who's coming in, what stage they're coming in at, and where we're likely to see the next moves coming from.
Very, very interesting. I think the more of these products that we get offered, I feel like the overall trend is up, and the more of these that we actually get coming in, they will eat to an extent each other's market share, but I think that it will only bring in more and more and more. It'll give more and more approval when these institutions look around. They say, well, it's not just the CME, it's all of these guys. And then you're going to get this situation where the institutions are looking at it and going, why the hell haven't we invested in Bitcoin yet?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's a positive for the space. It's more legitimacy. Facebook was the biggest advert for our space as long as I've been around anyway. The Libra token and all the talk about that, it did stamp down a certain amount of legitimacy. People start to look into it and find there's even more legitimacy. As these new products come out, there'll be more and more and more and more. It's not going to be funny internet money. It's going to be a real asset class. And that's what's being created at the moment. Look, it'll take time. There'll be all sorts of crap. We'll have to listen to the old people screaming and shouting about Bitcoin's this and Bitcoin's that, clearly because they don't understand that they've got to do AML, KYC, they have the same financial regulations and regulatory boards than we are if we trade stocks. It's not just a matter of, okay, I'll just go and deliver a suitcase to someone with $1 million and I get my Bitcoin. It doesn't work like that anymore. And if it does, you got to, there's some sketchy shit going on right there.
Yeah. I'm sure someone still buys Bitcoin like that, but it's very much a minority.
And I'm sure we know that there's money laundering that goes on. It's just that money laundering tends to be done by the massive banks as opposed to a sketchy accountant.
That's right. Bitcoin's not really great for money laundering because it's all transparent on the damn public ledger.
Yep, exactly. And I think that a lot of these older pundits are just older pundits. They just refuse to look into something new. The internet was never going to work. No one was going to send emails because the email system work. We've seen it all before. And those that are able to be savvy and see the change that's occurred in our most recent life. You think of how fast things have changed in 100 years. This is the next obvious, in my view. Look, if I'm wrong, then I'll be wrong. Fine. In my view right now, it's the most obvious market to be getting involved in, that gaming and artificial intelligence.
That's it. It's very, very exciting times.
And my intelligence is so bad that I wouldn't want it to be artificial. I'll stick to trading and crypto.
You got to know your strengths, man. It's really important.
That's right. That's right.
So with all that stuff happening, and we're just talking about the institutions, but I mean the retail, they're coming back more and more and more all the time. We see across a whole range of different metrics. Are we retesting the all-time high this year, in your opinion?
Yeah, look, I don't see. Look, the answer has to be based on the way I look at a chart. Okay, the way I look at a chart is by seeing where the trends are. Now, I can't, aside from some cataclysmic black swan event that I can't prepare for. I don't know what it's going to be doing, or aside from that, look, we've actually got one of the strongest uptrends that we've seen in this market. We are trending just as strong as we did from April through to June, and then this is 2017, and then again from sort of September through to December when we saw that madness. We're trending in a similar vein as that. Now, the moves, as I say, if we were to calculate an average, let's say, the first pullback in 2017 was 32, the next was 40, the next was 39, the next was 32, averaging out to 35. Each of the moves that followed was 234%, 178%, this is higher, 163%, and 254%. Now that averages out to 207%. So considering we haven't had one proper pullback at 35% as an average, if we've got 3 more to go, then yeah, we've got, and that's, I'm hypothetically using the history to present itself to the future, but I can actually see who's getting involved now, and I can see this next bull run being even bigger. I do believe that, yeah, I mean, if you consider, $20,000, okay, let me just tell you exactly where we are from right now. To get to $20,000, all we need, or to get to the old highs, is 58% move. So I think you'd be very brave to sort of say, no, we will not break to Bitcoin all-time highs this year. There's nothing being suggested to me that it's going to go that way. And typically you'll find the people that are saying it's just going to fall are the ones that have been saying it for a long time and for some reason just can't.
It's funny, the ones who've been saying, the ones that are out there, the old men screaming at the sky, so to speak, they're also not shorting Bitcoin, are they?
Well,
they're so confident.
Case in point, sorry. When have we got? Everyone's talking about 6,000. If you recall way back in, was it April? 6,000. There was a strong level of support there, a really, really strong reason for us to see some form of pullback. Now, I watched it on the level 2 books. I watched the order flows. There wasn't even fake orders. Like nobody was there. There was nothing at all at 6,000. We went straight through it because I was looking around going, what are we doing here? What are we doing? We just went straight through it. And then that same day, we broke 6,000, went to 7,000 in a day. So there's a lot of talk, but very little action on the short side. Very little lasting action anyway.
Now, I want to move on to talking a little bit about altcoins here, because obviously Bitcoin has been the big king, right? I mean, if you want to be longing Bitcoin, right, that's something that's been playable recently. But in terms of actually trying to trade Bitcoin versus the altcoins, that's been a very tough game. There's only a couple of altcoins recently that have done well versus Bitcoin, right? There are a handful of them. The majority of altcoins right now seem to be getting pretty rinsed out at the moment. I've kind of, just totally stepped back from trading altcoins at the moment while just kind of letting Bitcoin do its thing. Are there any altcoins except for Ethereum that you're looking at trading right now?
Yeah, and they're all short. So I can trade a number of different, alts against Bitcoin. So, for example, ultimately I'd prefer to be long Bitcoin with leverage, with margin, or Ethereum, because I get really good volume, so I can exit in and out big size trades without too many issues. Yeah. But failing that, if I see something like, for example, yesterday, Litecoin against Bitcoin had a wonderful little breakout level. Now, I happen to not be there at the time that it broke, but it's moved really, really nicely from that point, short. Now, the thing is that you've got to be careful with the liquidity that you get. A few weeks back, 3 weeks back now, there was a great breakout similar to what Litecoin did yesterday, sorry. And I raised an order on BitMEX. Now, I didn't go to Bitfinex. I probably should have. There you go. There's a mistake that I made. I didn't go and check the other exchange that I traded with to see what the volume was like. And look, it moved about 22 to 1, like a big move. So, risk $1,000, there's 22 grand on the table right there in the space of a couple of weeks. I raised the order, and what happened was when I raised the order, I looked across the books and went, my order's about 150 times bigger than anyone else's. Now that's not because I'm doing massive orders. It was because on BitMEX, on that particular EOS versus Bitcoin contract, there was just so little going on. When you are going to trade against Bitcoin, effectively you're trading for Bitcoin, right? So your profits come back in Bitcoin. If you're shorting, say Litecoin against Bitcoin, you're long Bitcoin. So there's more than one way to be looking to trade Bitcoin and still build your sats. And that's something that's really important for people to understand, because if they go through, like I do a scan each day of the top 150, and they're all in downtrends at the moment, bar a couple, like Quant and maybe I think Link and something else. There's very few in there. And I haven't had a trade just to build sats purely like a Binance type trade for a long time. It's been much in the margin trading area, which is what I like. When a bull market comes, that's where you make your money. It's very easy. It's very easy as far as the scanning, because there's not as many to look at, and your volume's quite good, so you don't get as much slippage. But yeah, you can. There's more than one way to be involved in trading Bitcoin, and it's not just about buying out Bitcoin. It's not just about trading Bitcoin with margin. You can be shorting altcoins against. If you look against Binance charts right now against Bitcoin crosses, they're all just going. It looks just like 2017. And by Jingo, by George, I can't wait for them to have leverage products for the top 150, because it would just be so easy to make it rain.
It's going to be really cool. And we see actually a trend towards more and more margin trading being offered on more and more platforms, which again, I think is a really a good sign for the space overall, that we are seeing a much wider variety of ways for people to actually be investing and trading cryptocurrencies, to be able to use Binance, for example. I think KuCoin just launched CUMEX. They're calling it CUMEX. And so we're seeing a lot more of these platforms actually coming in. But outside of, longing or shorting any of the altcoins, are there any altcoins that you're actually accumulating at the moment for kind of a long-term hold?
Yeah, and it's not based too much on, it's based on my theory as to who's coming to the market, as opposed to the actual project itself. I'll be straight with you on that. I'm not a fundamentals guy. I don't claim to be. So for me, I rejigged my portfolio, I think December last year, January. I had a few sort of exotic alts, I'll call them. I ditched most of those.
Probably not a bad call.
Yeah. Well,
I've got a few too many exotic alts I'm still holding on to. I like some of them, but some of them, I don't know why.
I hold a couple that I'm happy to sort of be involved in. But no, it's for me, it's been about sort of focusing on that top 10. So I hold some Ethereum. I bought a bunch recently. Cardano, XRP. I don't have any Litecoin at this stage. I just don't like it had a strong run at the start of the year, and I'm a bit reluctant to buy that like that. I did really well last year. The start of the year on Binance. That was my best. Bitcoin's overtaken now profitability, but I got a couple of great Binance trades for that run up. Started buying it at $6.80, started selling it at $28. So I had some really, really good moves. And that was just trading. That was just based on TA, nothing else. But yeah, I'm trying to sort of build into the platforms that I believe will stay within the top 10, because I think that what's going to happen when this older person money, and if I'm right, it's based purely around who's coming to the market as opposed to anything else. I think they'll see that top 10. I think they'll see how long they've been around and how long they've held that position. And I think it'll give them a bit of confidence, diversifying against Bitcoin. They'll start to see the pumps if they happen again. I'm sure that there will be some again. And I think that's probably where we're going to see it. If we're honest, that has been where the market's held its ground more than most. Not against Bitcoin, because they are falling against Bitcoin, but against the USD, or against dollar tether, or whatever the measure that we can have. We have seen a lot of these top 10 tokens kind of just range, not do a great deal, which you want them to go up, but at least if they're not losing their value, your hedge is still in play. You don't want to see, like, because XRP, we've seen it before, it can do a 6x in the space of 3 days. Now, I want 6 times the amount I've invested in Ripple and Bitcoin, because once it does shoot up, I'll just get out and go back to Bitcoin, wait for it to come back again and buy some more. I'm not too concerned about, I don't keep up with all the updates of the communities and that sort of thing. I'm more interested in doing what I do, which is reading who's coming next to the market and reading the trend of an investment as opposed to the internals of that particular company. Because let's be honest, you can't go and look at the profit and loss statement. You can't go and see everything. It's all he said, she said, for the most part anyway. So I try and stay ahead by thinking as to who's coming next as opposed to, who's the key developer and what have they done right now. I might fail at that, by the way.
You got to have a strategy, though. Very, very
Yeah,
interesting stuff, Craig. And again, for anyone who wants to get some more information about those live events that are coming up, there's a link down below that you can check out. Craig, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights into the crypto market with us.
absolute pleasure, Lark. Thanks, everybody. Take care and look forward to seeing you in one of the cities around Australia or in Auckland.
Thank you.
Cheers.